Okay, wanted to we're starting up week 4 right now, and we're just at the halfway point of the class. And the essay is due tonight. The second essay on Shoah is due tonight. I just wanted to go over a few things with the last essay and show folks really what a good essay looks like. And so everybody understands they can look at their introduction and their body paragraphs, their conclusion, their works cited, and get most of the things checked off and taken care of before it comes in. So I took one of the essays, asked the student if I could use the essay that the student wrote, changed the name, and I just want to walk through some of the elements. And again, the essay's due tonight. I should make it clear it's not due at it's due at 1:50 or 11:55 tonight. Go ahead and send that in as a attachment to an email. And do use the email within Blackboard. Most folks did that and did just fine. A few folks were sending it to my joseph.pendleton@bbc.edu. Just go ahead and send it through Blackboard as an attachment. Um, okay, let me walk through this essay, okay? And show you some of the things I'm looking for. And now, this is Susie McMuffin. She's back again. No, that's not her real name. And I just want to walk through some of the things you should try to make sure you have before you send it in the final draft work. Now, everybody should have gone through the early draft stages of finding, usually you get your topic first, what you want to write about. You can look at Chelmno, you can look at Treblinka, or if you wanted to go after the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising or any other part of the book, as long as you get 4 quotations that you can somehow examine together and get your focus down early on, okay? And that focus is really up to you. You get to determine it, but you must have that focus. Don't try to cover too many parts of the book. It's going to get, scattered. So getting that focus early on and getting your evidence is part of the early draft stages and what we went over last week. So you should have that done. As I go through this essay today, you should have in front of you the 4 body paragraphs basically developed and be working on the introduction and things like that. So, and you can decide on, how you want to do it, but always keep in mind that what you're doing with this essay is examining primary sources. That's what historians do. They make a distinction between primary sources, people who were actually there during the events that are being discussed. And remember that they are not objective. Nobody who was at an event that's of a historical importance was objective. It doesn't mean they're lying or telling the truth or anything like that. You can't tell just by their position. You have to go through their evidence and take a look at it and why it's valuable. And with this one, what we're doing is looking at primary sources connected to the Holocaust. These are Jewish victims or survivors who went through it, the Polish villagers who were around the area, and then some of the German guards and such like that. And so, and again, I want to emphasize, really avoid the 2 pitfalls that I've seen in these essays in the past are stereotyping. Do not do that. Do not either stereotype the Germans or the Jews or the Poles based on the testimonies of a couple of people here and there. Okay. So avoid the stereotyping, but also avoid sugarcoating or dismissing things that they say. What these individuals say is very important and demonstrates issues about the mindset that went into some of the people who were there, who were present at the time of the Holocaust when it was unfolding. Okay, so keep that in mind with it as you navigate through these, and you want to give an insight into the testimony that you're working with. That's what we want to do. We're not going to make generalized statements about the Holocaust. That's not the goal. Okay, we want to make precise statements about the testimonies from the witnesses that you have chosen to write on. Okay, so let me go through this one right here. This is Antigone, the Antigone essay, and this essay shows some of the strengths, but also it does show some weaknesses. And I've left the essay the way it is, and there are problems in it, and there are weaknesses in it, but the big picture is taken care of, and that's why this was one of the stronger essays. It is by no means a perfect essay, It isn't, but it's quite good. It's quite good. It takes care of the main issues that I shouldn't say most people run into, the main issues that were most common among students who were struggling. So that's why I wanted to go through this one. So again, it is not perfect, but I want to show you some of the main elements that you want to make sure you take care of before you send it in, before you send in your Showa essay. And remember that this essay, the Antigone essay, is really in what we're trying to do, which is close, careful analysis, is very similar to the essay we're doing on Showa, and it's going to be very similar to the essay that we're going to do on civil rights and then on art. Okay, and this is the nature of close, careful reading and of analysis. That's the core of critical thinking, which for many people is slightly different. It's actually dramatically different than report writing, because instead of compressing something, you're trying to blow something up to give insight into it. That's what you're trying to do. And this essay basically does that. So again, there are shortcomings in this essay, some of them fairly significant, okay? But the main things of the thinking skills are there. And I want to go through a little bit of the setup, the introduction, and then the first body paragraph to show you a little bit of what you should try to get in order to get a good solid grade. So these are the main things that are taken care of in Susie's essay. So a quick thing, and what I went over with everybody's essay in the video was the format. Notice that this one is done correctly. The name is up there with the page number. Okay. Susie's name and all that kind of stuff is up there. A minor thing, I don't worry about it, but this should be this way. And again, I don't worry about it. It should be day, month, year. That's a minor thing. So, and again, I don't worry about it, but I point it out because when you go on with your degree, you're going to run into some faculty who really are nitpicky on things. Okay, so I bring this stuff up, but it's not a big deal for me. Now, right here in the introduction, this is a good introduction. This is not a great introduction. This is about a B-level introduction. It has some serious shortcomings, but it does a decent job of setting up. We're going to be dealing with Creon, we're going to be dealing with Antigone, and the theme of the pride is brought up. Pride, now, this is both a good thing and a bad thing. This is where these are the scenes and the basic factual information that's going to be dealt with. I'll put that in red, let's say. Creon, boy, that looks awful, doesn't it? Creon, the new ruler, has made a law stating that no human shall touch or bury the body. This is all factual stuff, okay? That's all factual stuff, and so that's, fine. Actually, let me get rid of that. Boy, let's see here. Going to the wrong one. Oh, well, let's leave it red. Well, let me get rid of that. That just couldn't be much uglier. Okay, this is all going through factual information. Okay, that's what this does here in the play. This right here introduces one of the themes that Susie works with, the issue of pride. This is very important. In your introduction, you need to give an idea of the factual information you're going to cover, but also the insights that you're going to provide. Now, Susie gives an insight into the nature of pride that's going on in the play. Okay, there's a strength in it that this is Susie's insight into it. That's the good thing. The weakness of it is it's a little too general. It can be refined to really talk about the nature of the pride of both Antigone and Creon and how they share this problem of pride. The proposal introduced, spoken by Creon, advances the appearance of pride in the story. That's okay, but it could be developed more. Pride is a quality that all humans have. That's too general. Notice what it does do well. It brings in this theme that the author is going to be working with, and it's about pride, but it needs to get into the nature of Antigone's and Creon's pride. This is an okay introduction, not a great one. But notice many people, what they did in their introductions was set out factual information, and that's great. Balance it with the kind of insights that you're going to give, okay? Some people take pride regarding their positions or appearance towards the world. And again, that's good, because it talks about, pride regarding the positions or appearance. But make it clear how that applies to Antigone and Creon. That would be what you're really going towards. So again, this essay demonstrates many of the strengths that you need to make sure you take care of in your writing. Make sure you set out the scenes you're going to be dealing with. And that's what this introduction does a decent job of. And it also does a decent job of setting up some of the themes that are going to be dealt with, but make those themes more specific to the work you're working with. So in this case, it should have been more specific to Creon and Antigone about pride. The fact that the pride's in there, that's good. That means I know what Susie's going to work with as far as her analysis in the body paragraphs. That's good. But it needs to be refined to bring up Creon and Antigone's pride. The same thing's going to happen with Showa. Make sure you set up the scenes you're going to be dealing with in Showa. Are you going to be writing about Srebnik, Tsukomo, Bomba? Whom are you going to be writing about? Make sure we know who they are and what they basically went through and what they're talking about and things like that. But then give us some idea of why the testimonies that they provide are important. And that's your insight into those people's testimonies. What have you found that's particularly insightful that we can learn by reading your essay? Okay, make sure you get a good balance between them. And overall, this introduction does a decent job of that. Not a great introduction, but a solid introduction. Okay, that's what Susie's got here. Okay, and I'll reiterate, no, Susie's not a real student. I've changed the name. Okay, but this was an essay from this semester. So this is one that did well. Not perfect, far from it, but good. This is good, solid work. Throughout the story, both characters explain the consequences of their pride and harmful events it causes in their lives. Now, there are some boo-boos in it. Number one, lives. It should be lives. And this should be developed more. Throughout the story, that's kind of a fluff statement. And it could be revised to get through the different scenes of Antigone and Creon. Throughout the conflict between Antigone and, it'd be good if I spelled right, and Creon. Throughout the conflict between Antigone and Creon, both characters, I would say, suffer the consequences of their pride and harmful events it causes in their lives. But now the thing is, there's two things about it. They're not aware of their pride and how it's creating problems, and they also create problems for everybody else. So suffer the consequences of the pride, even though they are unaware of their problem. Blindness. I'll call it blindness because Susie calls it that in one of the body paragraphs. And even though it's two words, thank you very much, and the harmful events it causes in their lives and the lives of their families and fellow citizens. This is a better thesis. It's not a great thesis, but it's better because it's more specific. It now applies to Antigone and Creon, shows the problem of their pride, how they're unaware of it, and how they affect their own lives and the people around them. So this is now a better thesis statement. Okay, a better thesis statement. What color are we going to put this into? I'll put it in, how about a purple? So for the thesis statement, there we go. That's the better thesis. It's not a bad thesis. What Susie had to begin with was not bad, but it needs to apply to Antigone and Creon. Your thesis for Showa needs to apply to the testimonies that you are interpreting. It should not apply to the entire, Holocaust or to World War II or to Nazi Germany or Poland. Or don't go broadly. Instead, make sure your thesis applies to Tsukomo and Bomba, or it applies to Srebnik and Chelmno. Make sure it is insightful and specific. That's what a good thesis does. And generally, rule of thumb, my thumb likes to give advice, a good thesis is at least 2 lines long. A good thesis is often about this one's about 2.5. That's something to look for in a thesis. Isn't that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay. So a good thesis is about that long. and it should read clearly. It's you might remember I've talked about in the grammar videos, talking about your built-in shockproof shit detector. It should make sense to you. This one reads pretty well. This one does a good job now. It was okay before. Now it's better because it's more specific and it sounds okay. Many thesis statements, the first and second time you write them, they're very hard to do. They are. And when you're writing them and your thoughts are more sophisticated, they really are, the grammar can get more confused because it's trying to accommodate this more sophisticated idea. And when it's trying to do that, you will often create sentences that are a little bit off. That's okay. That's a sign that you're working with more sophisticated ideas. But now what you need to do is not leave it that way, but refine it a couple of times, a couple more times, until it just sounds right. That is where your built-in shockproof shit detector becomes absolutely essential to good writing. It's your sense of what works right and what doesn't work right. And that is very important in your later draft stages to make sure your language is nice and clear, okay? And you're going to have to use that on your thesis statement, all right? Let me go through one body paragraph, and these are the things you want to look for, okay? There's 4 elements in a good body paragraph, okay? First of all, Susie here does a good job with setting the context. Not great. There are weaknesses here, okay? So I'll point some of them out. The prologue of the story, and she sets up the, these are Antigone's first words, or right after she's just gotten on Ismene's case about, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and you've got to go with me. Now, the problem with this is it doesn't say Ismene disagrees with Antigone's foolish plan, which causes disgust between them. Little note, always use the present tense with literature, okay? Always use the present tense. You should use it with Bomba speaks, Sukhumul explains. You should keep them primarily in the present tense when you're writing on that. Only when you shift to an historical event, like World War II happened in 1941 through 45, or if you're in Europe, it started really in 39. If it's a historical event, shift into the past. But if it's just you're dealing with somebody's speech, you can go ahead and use what's called the literary present. And so that's what Susie does here. Okay. Now the problem is this sentence right here makes me expect that this is going to be from Ismene. It's not. It's actually Antigone's words. So minor issue is this is Antigone speaking. Okay. That needs to be set up. That's a minor issue. I can figure it out. This is good. This is really good. But notice it takes a good deal of time to set the scene and set up the themes. In fact, Susie kind of starts describing it before she gets to it. Okay, and then here's your quotation. This is a block quotation done well. Okay, I'll make it in. How about I make it in orange? So okay, boy, do I hate orange. Why don't I leave that in black? Okay. Oh, I took all my colors out. Okay, I'll bring them back. I shall be hating you soon. The dead will too. For your words are hateful. Leave my foolish plan. I am not afraid of the danger if it means death. It will not be the worst of death, death without honor. This is a great quotation because boy is Antigone laying into Ismene. And those are just, boy, that something's going on there, okay? That's good, okay? That's why I like it. Notice it's formatted correctly. Susie's got it all in. Let me move this down here. It's all bumped in one tab. That's 5 spaces, ½ an inch. Okay, that's the way it should be. Now for the let me get out of this again. Go back to black. For Showa, all you're going to have after your quotations is the page number only. Let's say this were it were from page 86, and you look to your book. Okay, look for what page it's on. Page 61 or 87 or whatever, and just put that page number. That's it. MLA tried to make everything as simple as possible. You do not need to write page. Don't do that. And don't do this, PG period. Those are little piggies. No piggies at the end of your quotations. Okay? We don't need those. All you need is the page number. So because Antigone didn't have page numbers, the free edition that I found, it's a really good translation, but it just doesn't have page numbers. So we had to deal with it and deal with lines. So that one was slightly different, but for the rest of the time, and by the way, I should mention only if you're quoting the Bible or Shakespeare, do they actually shift out of that page number format, where you just have the page number at the end in parentheses. Because the Bible and Shakespeare have so many editions out there. All you need to do is use traditional, 2 Corinthians and go on from that. Everybody has a different Bible with different page numbers, so using that exact edition isn't very important. They can find it if they have, they know what book you're in and what chapter and all that kind of stuff to find the verse. And the same thing happens in Shakespeare. Those are the only exceptions. If you say Act 5, Scene 2, line 25 through 28, they can find it. Okay. Otherwise, just do page number. Okay. That's solid for MLA and for pretty much APA too. You shouldn't be using APA with Shakespeare or the Bible, but that's all you need is the page number after it. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that. Now, this right here, okay, this is good. Let me see if this is the only one. Well, this one's all right. This one isn't the one I was going to talk about, but this one does a good job. The prologue of the story, blah, 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 has the context. And this all describes what's going on. So we're up to here. And so and this is up to here really is describing what's going on in the quotation. It's not doing anything radically new. Antigone is ready to take full responsibility for her actions, even if the result is death. Notice Susie's dealing with the quotation, okay? And notices how, she's being responsible and everything else. What in that part right here is description, okay? That's description, and that's very important. And I'll go ahead and put that in red first. That describes what's going on there. And that's what you need to do first. Now, this is where it gets into analysis. And this is a good, solid description. There are some grammatical boo-boos in that. There are. But Antigone, with hatred against Ismene, starts to blackmail her with threats emotionally. That's a little bit quirky in the phrasing, but it's not that bad. And there's some other odd things. But it's overall just a straightforward description. That's what it is. And then watch what happens at the end of the paragraph. This is important because the overall shift is to analysis. And it answers the question of why are these words important, okay? She is becoming blind and deaf by neither understanding nor listening to Ismene's views. Notice it doesn't say that, but it demonstrates that. This is what Susie is using this for, okay? Antigone talks about Creon having too much pride. This is a little bit of a problem because that's not in the quotation. It's not a big problem because it doesn't go off on on Creon. It stays focused on Antigone. So a little bit off, but this is overall good. But doesn't realize that she is doing the same to Ismene by ignoring her perspective, because her views are more important than anyone else. Now again, there's some of the language is a little bit awkward, but this is analysis, and I can see it here. The point about Creon is true, but Creon's not going to demonstrate that until later in the essay, okay? So that's going to come up. So I'm not bothered by this Creon bit. It's fine. Self-pride, which causes her to destroy her relationship with her only sister. Pride not only has created Antigone being selfish, but also a feeling of guilt towards her actions. All of this is insightful. That's the big shift that has to happen in every one of your body paragraphs, okay? So just going through what you need to have in your body paragraph. Right here, setting the context. I'll make that green, okay? Let's make it the other green because that's too light. So set the context, okay? Then you have evidence, and it's formatted correctly, okay? I have no idea what color to make that because, boy, oh boy, let's make it, well, let's go ahead and make it orange, even though I hate orange. No, I'm not a Denver fan, but anyway. So set the context, give the evidence, describe that evidence, explain why that evidence is important. And I want to be very clear. Be original with this, but be insightful. Take a close look at your words. I am so great with people disagreeing with me and saying things I don't agree with. As long as I can see it up in the evidence, great work. Okay, as long as I can see it up in the evidence, you're in good shape. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. That's what you need to take care of in your Showa essays. Those are your main elements. Make sure you have a good introduction. Okay, get the formatting down. Make sure you have a good works cited at the end. Notice Susie's got that works cited. You're going to have, we'll call this by Claude Lanzmann. Okay, you don't need to bother with the preface by Simone de Beauvoir. She's fairly famous, by the way. And it's Da Capo Press, and I believe all of your editions should be from 1995. You know, whatever. You can find the date up there and put that there. And you should have a one-line works cited and be in good shape, okay? But make sure you do restate your thesis and summarize your main points at your conclusion, okay? All right, good luck with this essay. Keep at it, guys. We're halfway there. We're going to be done in not too long. Take care.